to start the program. Can I kindly request everyone to say sadhu, please?
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Yato nidanang bhikkhu purisang papancha sanya sanka samuda charanti ettache natti abhinandi tabbang abhivadi tabbang ajjosi tabbang esevanto raganusayanang esevanto patiganusayanang esevanto dittanusayanang esevanto vichikicchanusayanang esevanto mananusayanang esevanto avijjanusayanang esevanto dandadana sattadana kalaha viggaha vivada tuang pesunyang musavadana etteke papaka kusala dhamma aparisesa nirujjanti ti. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you everyone for joining today. Today is the first day we are meeting in this Tuesday mindfulness practice session, 27th January 2026. And to start the supportive factor session, we have already started a topic, and that was stopped halfway. So I'm taking that once again. And that was the topic that was taken from Madu Pindika Sutta. In other words, we call it honey ball sutta. So it's a honey ball that we are going to quietly open up. The meaning of the particular stanza that I have just recited, the direct meaning is, it says, Bhikkhu, as to the source through which perceptions and notions born of mental proliferations beset a man, if nothing is found there to delight in, welcome, and hold on to, that becomes the end of underlying tendencies to lust, underlying tendencies to aversion, underlying tendencies to view, underlying tendencies to doubt, underlying tendencies to conceit, underlying tendencies to desire for being, underlying tendency to ignorance. This is the end of resorting to rods, weapons of quarrels, brawls, disputes, discrimination, malicious words, false speech. Here, these evil, unwholesome states cease without remainder. So that was the meaning. So this happened when the Blessed One was living in Sakyan country, which is his birthplace. And then there is a park called Nigrodha Park, or Nigrodharama, which is the monastery. And in the morning, he has, after morning rituals, taken the digging ball, and he has gone for collecting food. And then after lunch, he has gone to the great wood for days abiding. And after entering there, he has sat down at a root of a bilva sapling, and he has been resting. That time, since it is lunchtime probably, person called, a Sakyan called Dandapani, has also been walking and wandering for exercise in the park, and he has exchanged courteous greetings with the Blessed One and asked him, after sitting onto a side, he has been standing onto a side and leaning to a stick that he was carrying. He has asked the Blessed One, what does the recluse assert? What do you proclaim? In Pali, we call it King Vado Kimakaiti Samano. So this is a very common question those days in India when Buddha was living. There have been a lot of teachers, and they have always given forwarded an assertion, and others will um, argue for it, or some will argue against. So therefore, even Dandapani thought, Blessed One, a recluse, is also having some assertion like that. He is giving some argument forward. So that is why he is asking, King Vado Samano Kimakkaiti. What do you say? And what is your argument? So during Buddha's time, some of the common assertions that have been put forward were about eternalism, and some were talking about annihilation, and some were talking about materialism, some were talking about independent of causality. So there were a lot of things, and there is a discourse called Brahmajala, net of Brahmas, and there are about 62 of them. So this is the reason why this person has asked the Blessed One whether he's also having something like that. So then the Blessed One says, in the world with its gods, its maras and its brahmas, in this generation with its recluses and brahmins, its princes and its people, I proclaim no quarrel with anyone. And then he goes on to say, detached from sensuality, without perplexities shorn of worry, free from any becoming, and no slightest underlying perceptions that the above would reverse. So that's a very strong statement by the Buddha. At the very outset, he says, Viggahya tittati, which means no quarrel at all in my teaching. And then he says, Kamehi Visangyutta, which means detached from the sensuality. I am not going to satisfy my sense faculties. And Akatang Kating Chinna Kukkuchang, which means when I am saying this, I don't have at least a slightest doubt or slightest worry that I am having some tendency towards sensuality, or I am having some tendency to fight with somebody. He says, no, I absolutely have no doubt about what I'm saying. And also he says, Bhava Bhave Vitatanna, free from any becoming, any becoming. It's not only a human being, even any higher level of beings is not expecting. And he also says, Sanya Nanusenti, I don't have at least the slightest perception that I will get into these states once again. So he did not understand head or tail of what the Blessed One said. So therefore, what he did was he pulled his tongue and showed all funny facial expressions, and he just set off, and he went off without telling anything to Buddha. And then the Blessed One came to the monastery and told that in the monastery to some of the monks. And then even the monks did not understand. But one monk, for our luck, he asked what are you saying and how does this happen? And therefore, it is important for sometimes that you will have to be a bit of talkative. So you don't just let go. And when something is said, you will have to put a googly and see how the teacher is playing. So that way, if there is any dhamma behind in what he is saying, that can be taken out. So that is how this particular thing was taken out. And then that is why it is called honey ball, because that guy asked what you proclaim and what is your assertion. And that led to a nice array of Dhamma being taught by the Blessed One initially, and then it goes on to another level. So we'll come to that later. So in when that particular monk asked what he proclaims and how does it not what he proclaims, how does he do that? Then only this particular stanza that we took forward came into the picture. And what it says, what Buddha says is, when it says, Bhikkhu, as to the source through which the perceptions and notions born of mental proliferations beset a man. So let me explain that first. So usually, any human being, when they are living, there is a continuous flow of perceptions and mental proliferations. And that will not usually die until such time that person dies. Even if you become Buddha, there will have some mental proliferations going on. And in Dhamma, we have heard instances where even Buddha has, when he was meditating, he has been thinking of certain things. And there are arahants who have been thinking of certain things. That is because these underlying mental proliferations are going. So what the Blessed One says is when these underlying underlying perceptions and mental proliferations are going on, Blessed One says, if nothing is found there to delight in, it is going on, but he is not getting delighted in it. And welcome, and nothing there to hold to. So if there is if none of these things are happening, it says nabi nandati, nabi vadati, najosaya tittati. Nabi nandati means you don't delight in. And nabi vadati means not, it is the word welcome is not really suitable. Nabi vadati means you don't talk about it. Vadanaya, talk. And ajjosaya tittati means you don't get bogged down in it. So when those things are not happening, although the mental proliferations are going on, the Blessed One says that becomes the end of these underlying tendencies. Is giving all the 7 or 8 underlying tendencies, which is lust, aversion, view, doubt, conceit, desire for being, and ignorance. So we have discussed of these things, the first two in our last talk. And then not only the underlying tendencies, after that he says, and that becomes the end of resorting to rods and weapons and quarrels, brawls, and all, fights that we have in the society. Today, if you turn on the TV, all what you have, forget about underlying tendencies. Everyone is, sharpening their weapons and testing their weapons because we do not know what will happen, what time. So that is happening. That is because these mental proliferations are really leading and governing our entire society. So Blessed One says if those mental proliferations are not hold on to, not delighted in and not spoken about, then those things will not happen. But it cannot be done by ordinary lay people, these are, if when those things are not happening, he's talking about underlying tendencies. To come to underlying tendencies, there are much rough, much gross level of defilements before coming on to underlying tendencies, which we call transgressional defilements and obsessional defilements. Transgressional defilements are those defilements that at least two people will know when that happens, which is basically our precepts. It may be 7 or 8 or 10 or 200 odd precepts for monks. So at least two people will know. Obsessional defilements means only the person who is having the defilements will know. In obsessional defilements, it's only at the mental level. Whereas the transgressional defilements are concerned, they are physical and verbal. So once the obsessional defilements are also handled, only these underlying tendencies, which is a lower layer of or very strong mental defilement. And the difference between underlying tendencies and the obsessional defilement is that underlying tendencies, even the person having it won't know because they appear as a friend, not as a foe. It's like, you know, a thief or a murderer coming home, like a very good friend. That happened in India those days. Children go for studies far away states, and when they are going, they are in their early teens. But when they come back, they usually grown up people cannot recognize. So sometimes some people come claiming that they are their sons, but actually they are not sons. They are coming to kill the parents and take the property. So things like that have happened. So therefore, it's a perversion. Like that, underlying tendencies appear as a friend, but actually a real enemy. So it's fire under the ash, or they act like sleeping tigers. So these underlying tendencies, if I give you an example from the practice, sometimes when you are practicing, when you feel that your leg is so painful, you may feel expressing loving kindness to your leg, right? So that is because you don't want to get into the epicenter of the pain and then observe that. You hate that pain. So hating the pain appear as a loving kindness towards it. So it's a very crooked way that it comes up, that it comes. Sometimes some questions are being asked, and those questions are asked as if they are expressing a very good wisdom. But the underlying reason behind is maybe a doubt about Dhamma or about Buddha or about Sangha. So therefore, there is a perverted nature in our mind to bring defilements. So those perverted defilements will not appear if you don't delight in those mental proliferations, if you don't talk about those mental proliferations, if you don't get bogged down in those mental proliferations. So that's the meaning. So this particular discourse is not going into detail of the mental proliferations or the underlying tendencies. It is just mentioning that these underlying tendencies will not happen. But I am taking the opportunity and trying to explain underlying tendencies to the community, so that you will have some idea what these underlying tendencies are. And we have spoken about raga anusaya, or the underlying tendency of lust and hunger, in the last session. Today I am going to talk about underlying tendency of view. So when you say view, when we usually live, we have our own viewpoints, and we are living on those things. So Blessed One has explained in a sutta called Inversions, or Vipallasa Sutta, how these viewpoints arise. Initially, you will not have a view, but what happens is, if a particular perception arises due to some reason, it may be in the sensual world, it may be in the spiritual world, it may be in the meditation world. So wherever, if a perception arises, and if you live with that perception for a long time, then it becomes your thinking pattern. So we call it chitta. And then when that becomes your thinking pattern, and when you will explain it to other people, and other people also will start understanding it, and they also will start accepting it, then you get convinced that this is something right. And even the followers will get convinced that this is right. So that is how these viewpoints arise. So it is not only just it is right, they also test it and experiment it, and they get evidence of it, evidence of what they are saying. Now, say for example, if someone comes out and says, all what we need is money, so money is everything. So if you look at the world, there is nothing wrong in it. And you can't go to the society, you can't go to the road, you can't do anything if you don't have money. So in that manner, the same thing has come even during Buddha, and some people were talking only about materialism. They say, okay, even you take a loan and buy ghee and eat, because that is one of the most luxurious food those days, and eat. Don't worry about who is going to pay. So that is how the entire world is living. There is no country who is not, I mean, it is wrong to say that there are no countries. There are some countries who are not on debt. But a lot of so-called developed countries are on debt. So therefore, they take money and go behind materialism, and it has become a view. So similarly, and that is on the sensual world. But if you take spiritual world, it is also the same thing. Now we have different denominations, and a lot of denominations are believing in God, and those believe in God, and they themselves fight, saying the God they are following is the best one, and God the others are following is the wrong one, or the inferior one. So even there, they have different ways of thinking about the same thing that they are talking about, and different viewpoints arise. And I'm not going to talk about Buddhism. That is also not free from this type of viewpoints. There are so many divisions even in Buddhism. And I'm not going to talk about meditation as well. Meditation also is caught up in this viewpoint. So therefore, someone will have some perception, and that he will think about that perception and it will become his thinking pattern. And then it goes on to ditti, which means a view that everybody or most of the people will get convinced about. And not only convinced about, Buddha says in the Brahmajala Sutta, in the Sutta for uh, net of Brahmas, they say those things. There are 62 viewpoints that is given in there. They say these things not just because they are visualizing. They actually meditate. They actually meditate very, very hard. After meditating very hard, they get to a state where they get psychic powers. And using those psychic powers, some people are able to see the past. So by seeing the past, they come into certain conclusions. And some people are able to see the future. By seeing the future, they come into certain conclusions. So when those practice is taught to the other people, they also can do the same thing. They practice very hard, they get psychic powers, and then with those things, they say, okay, I have been living for so many years and so many times, and this is my father, this is my mother, this is my son, this has been my name, and all that. Then they start saying, um, people will live forever. They just vanish and be born in another world, and that will never end. So it is eternalism. So like that, different perceptions are being brought. So I'm just giving one example. And if you come to uh, mm, before Buddha's time, there has been a very wrong view. We call it niyata mitya dushti, which means um, unconditionally it's a wrong view, right? So there they are mentioning that um, what usually spiritual world believe is completely wrong. So what they are saying is there is there is nothing given, nothing offered, nothing sacrificed, no fruit or result of good and bad actions. There is nothing called this world. There is nothing called the other world. There is nothing called mother, no father, no beings who are born spontaneously. No good and virtuous recluses and Brahmins in the world who have realized themselves by direct knowledge and declare that this world and the other worlds exist. And the Blessed One says, there is nothing given in the sense there is no benefit of giving. There is no benefit of offering. There is no benefit of sacrification. Buddha does not accept those things. He says there is a huge benefit in giving. So this is why people exercise generosity. If someone says there is nothing, there is no benefit in giving, then he is completely going against the nature, and it becomes very dangerous for such people. And this society is like that. And this society, if you go for a party, and in the party you will have to take money for your own food, and that's how it works. So that is because they don't believe that there is benefit in giving. So these are very strong wrong views. So the Buddha says instead, in the right view, this is the very basic layer. In the right view, the Buddha says that there is benefit, there is merit in giving, there is merit in offering, there is merit in sacrification, and there is mother, there is father, there are people who have realized and they are explaining. how the samsara, the existence, can be stopped. So that is the beginning of the right view. So that is not basically acceptable, or that is not basically applicable rather to this audience. Since we are practicing mindfulness, so when we practice mindfulness, we definitely have given up a lot of things. It is not just food, it is not just money. We completely sacrifice our time, depending on the time and your devotion to it, and practice, and you offer all what you have during your practice. You let anything happen to you, anything happen to your breath, and you just keep observing, and you sacrifice everything, and you believe you don't you believe that there is some benefit in good and bad action. Especially you believe that there is a benefit in neither good nor bad action. So this is why when we practice, we simply come and sit. So therefore, the strong, we have gone a long way from strong wrong view. And then when people started practicing, um, there is there is a discourse called Kachana Gotta, and in that discourse, the Blessed One is explaining, or I exactly don't remember whether it's Blessed One or one of the disciples, and some of the recluses are coming into the conclusion of eternalism, and there is no end to existence, there is no end to the world, and that will exist forever. So that is because of the example I gave you. They practice and they are able to see that they have been living for so many eons. The Buddha says they have been able to see 40 eons. So 40 eons, um, innumerable number of lives. People are able to see when they practice, really practice, and get on to the psychic powers and get caught up in psychic powers, and that becomes their perception. Initially they get a perception and they go behind it, and it becomes their thinking pattern, and then they caught up in that flood, and then it becomes their viewpoint. So then they declare that eternalism is there, and even the followers will be able to do that. And on the other hand, there are many variations in it. And on the other hand, the other side, other extreme of it is annihilation. Some people says they practice, and after practicing, they say they will be able to keep on observing the breath, and after observing the breath, they will come to a state that no breath appears at all, or they come to a state, they get pain, and the pain completely vanishes, or then come to a state where they don't have any perceptions, nothing is there, they just keep observing. So after that, they can be there for long time, and they gradually come, since they are not aware of to keep the mindfulness to the fore, they don't become they don't perpetuate the mindfulness, and therefore they get engrossed with it, and they assume that it is going to last forever. So therefore they come to a conclusion that after death nothing will appear, because this is what I have experienced, and I'm experiencing after practicing, things disappear, and I have been in that state for such a long time. So therefore, after that, no more lives, Uchchedavada will come. And Uchedavada is also sometimes brought forward from what you call arguments. Without practicing, people will be able to argue and say, show me if there is afterlife. Nobody will be able to show. And even if there is afterlife, and if you see afterlife, you can't show it to somebody. So you will have your experience. So therefore, even some people, especially today, they are going into this annihilation viewpoint through arguments, right? So during Buddha's time, there have been people like that. And a teacher, a contemporary recluse during Buddha's time called Purna Kassapa, and he has denied the existence of karma. He's not accepting the existence of cause and effect relationship, and he's not accepting that there is good cause for good actions and bad results for bad actions. He did not accept that. So that's one viewpoint. And there was another person called Ajita Kesa Kambala, and he was very strong advocate of this Uchedavada or annihilation. So these things Buddha completely denied. And he said these are two extremes only. Some people will say you are living forever, and some other people will say this is the only life, and these are two extremes. But during that, there are so many variations, as I mentioned earlier in Brahmajala Sutta. Buddha said, we have an ability to go beyond these things, and without getting caught up in these viewpoints, we can see the reality what happens. To see the reality what happens, the only weapon Buddha is introducing to us is don't come into conclusion, don't come into a judgment, don't go for a decision. Simply keep observing. Even if nothing is there, you don't get caught up in it. So this is where that being delighted in is coming. If you delight in that, that you are seeing so many past lives, then you get caught up in it. And then you start talking about it, and then you get bogged down in it. And on the other hand, if you see that nothing is there, and if you delight in it, or talk about it, or hold on to it, that becomes a viewpoint. So to avoid that, only Buddha says, just keep observing, no matter. And whenever you have a situation, sometimes when we practice, we come to such situations. When you come to that situation, and when you know that there is nothing, just remind yourself, yes, I am aware. And when you feel, some images are coming, you just remind yourself, yes, I am aware. So therefore, when you say you are aware, there is no room for you to get caught up in it. When you don't say you are aware, the mind is so sharp and mind is so fast, mind uses that small gap of not being mindful to start creating mental proliferations about it. Even without our knowledge, we have gone long time. It happens even today. There are some people I know, they have some abilities, and when they give their reports, they are trying their level best to convince that what they are doing is right. But fortunately, I mean, it is a bit difficult to work with them. It's not good to say difficult because it is their nature. But they are listening, and they hear this word to keep the mindfulness to the fore. So after long discussions, they accept. But once again, when they practice, although they accept, their mind is taking once again in the spiraling effect. So Therefore, the blessed one says, when these things happen, what naturally happens is the viewpoints basically start with, as I said earlier, from the perceptions, and the perceptions become their thinking pattern, and then it becomes the viewpoints. So, therefore, the Buddha says the fundamental of these perceptions are mind is trying to establish permanent notion in the impermanent world. That is what it does. Because you have seen the permanence, you have been observing the breath, and the breath has disappeared. What the mind does is, mind is trying to say, absence is permanent. What you have seen is impermanent, but the mind, since you don't keep the mindfulness to the fore, mind is slowly putting the permanent notion into our mind, and this is the strength of Buddha's word. This is the strength of keeping the mindfulness to the fore. So whenever I teach, so that I'm highlighting that Buddha's word is nothing but keeping the mindfulness to the fore. There may have 84,000 things in the book, but all those 84,000 are based on this keeping the mindfulness to the fore. So now there is a very good chance for you guys to say you are also in a viewpoint. because because people can say it is also a perception, it is also a way of thinking, and it is also therefore you are gone into that viewpoint, and there are people listening to it, and there are people accepting, and some people put that as their signature as well, keeping the mindfulness to the fore and all that. So people can argue that it is also a viewpoint, but practice and see whether you get caught up in viewpoints. So when you keep the mindfulness to the fore, it all gets reversed. So what the mind is trying to do is taking these impermanent things as permanent, and suffering as pleasure, and mind is trying to create non-self as self, and mind is trying to create everything is pleasurable, and there is no unpleasurable in the world. So this is the perception that mind is trying to establish. With that, it can go to thinking pattern, and it can go to ditti. So, or the what do you call viewpoints. So, therefore, to get to what do you call middle path, uh, keeping the mindfulness to the fore is imperative. When you keep the mindfulness to the fore, you don't go to these two extremes. On one hand, annihilation, and on the other hand, eternalism. So you will keep that open and keep observing. So once you keep observing, all what you see is things appear and disappear. And then with that, you will see there will have instances you have breath, and there are instances that there is no breath. There are instances you have feelings, there are instances that you don't have feelings. And there are instances you have thoughts, there are instances that you don't have thoughts. And not only that, there are instances where all these things appear, and there are instances where all these things don't appear. There are instances where all these things appear very slowly. There are instances where all these things are happening very fast. So, therefore, that can be observed only when you keep the mindfulness to the fore. When you observe that, when the mindfulness is kept to the fore, then you are coming out of this eternalism and the annihilation, because nothing is going to be there for a long time. And therefore, parimukang sating, keeping the mindfulness to the fore, will not let you get hooked onto any of the extremes. So, what is important there is again, if I'm reminding, you don't come to a conclusion. You don't come to a decision. You don't come to a judgment, any judgment. The blessed one, Lokuhamdru says, suspended decision, non-judgmental awareness, non-reactional awareness. So when you do that, then you gradually get to the right view. And in the right view, because you have the mindfulness to the fore, one may ask, because when we practice, we are in the wrong view. So therefore, one may ask how this keeping the mindfulness to the fore will take you to the right view. So the blessed one says, I'm trying to show the significance of keeping the mindfulness to the fore. Blessed one says, the beginning of the right view is knowing that you have the wrong view. No need to have the right view. If you simply know and accept that your viewpoint is wrong, that itself is the right view. So therefore, this knowing, parimukang sating, sating means awareness. This awareness that you have that you are in a wrong view, you definitely have understood the problem now. Understanding the problem, Einstein has said, is in itself the answer. So that comes only with this awareness to keeping the mindfulness to the fore. And then he says, knowing the right view is also definitely right view. But the starting point is that it's not only the viewpoint, and he also says, if you have Miccha Sankappa means wrong concepts. If you have the wrong concept, what's the correct term for it? Yeah, wrong intentions. Accepting that you have wrong intentions, then that is also right view. You have wrong intentions, but you know you are going to, you are doing something with a bad intention. Doesn't matter. You accept yourself that you are in the wrong way. So that acceptance is, blessed one says, again, a right view. It contributes to the right view. Talking about intention, but it contributes to the right view. And similarly, when you have right intentions, knowing that is definitely right view. And also he says, Micha Vacha, that's wrong words or wrong, or what do you call it? Wrong speech. Wrong speech, knowing that you have wrong speech is again right view, right? And having right speech and knowing it's naturally right view. And also goes on to say, Micha Kammanta, and knowing, being aware that you have Micha Kammanta. What's the term for it? Wrong actions. Knowing that you have wrong actions is right view. And of course, when you have right actions, then knowing that is also right view. And similarly, wrong livelihood. Micha ajiva, wrong livelihood. Knowing that you have wrong livelihood is right view, Buddha says. So the point I'm trying to make is, it may be your view, it may be your intentions, it may be your speech, it may be your actions, it may be your livelihood, which are wrong. And if you accept and if you know, if you are aware that these are wrong, then that itself is the right view. So this is where the Mahakaruna, the compassion of the Buddha comes into light. Buddha does not say, if you are a wrong person, if you have anything wrong, I will stone you to death. Is not Buddha's way of approach. He has come to this world to make it a good place, and he has laid a foundation. He has shown the path to each and every evil person. If they are ready, there is a way. They should be ready. And that is why there is a saying called, if there is a will, there is a way. So the Buddha has shown the way. The question is, whether the society is having the will. So it is not applicable to this audience because you have the will and you are sacrificing to the best of your ability. But from this, it is very clear no matter whether you are fundamentally a wrong person, every human being is having the ability to come out of that mess. So that is what the Blessed One is teaching. So when you do that, when you practice, there will have so much of mental proliferations going on. When these mental proliferations are going on, and you may be during the whole time you may have been sitting and only thoughts have been going on. You have never been able to observe a breath or any pain or anything. You just keep thinking and get up. And we don't think that it is a way that the defilements have been depreciated. You become so upset about it, and after the practice, you will have a very long face. You don't talk about it as well. And Buddha says is, if you have a long face, that is because you have been delighting that. You have been, in a way, in a subtle way, you have been thinking and talking about it. In a subtle way, you have been holding on to it. But if you just get up and just completely forget it, which means you have not been delighting that. You have not been worrying about it. You have not been holding on to it. So therefore, most of the people practicing are in that state because the breath vanishes in no time. And the pain might take some time, that also vanishes. And the gross thinking, also when you become mindful, it also vanishes. But you expect that the thinking should completely stop. And initially, thinking will stop for some time. And then that stopping of thinking, you take that as permanent. You think, oh, I have achieved this, so I should never have thoughts. And with that mind, when you practice, when these underlying tendencies, these mental proliferations are going on, then you don't like it, right? So therefore, when we practice, if you have the right view, then you don't poke your fingers. You don't make decisions about it. You simply take that as something that you have observed. And that does not mean that you will have to be mindful about it all the time. What happens is we try to be mindful of that all the time. The reason for that is you think if you are mindful, this will be finished. No, what Buddha says, after some time, don't even worry about that at all. Don't even try to be mindful, because by trying to be mindful, the mind is trying to, what do you call, create self through mindfulness, right? So therefore, that has happened. Uninvited thoughts have come, so you don't go and become the owner of it. Most of the time, what we do is it's someone else's rubbish, the mind rubbish. We take that on board and say it is my thoughts. As soon as you do that, then you are creating circumstances for the underlying tendencies to come up. And then after that, it becomes obsessional and it becomes transgressional. The defilements will continue. So when that happens, naturally, permanent notion will come in a perverted manner. Permanent self notion will come in a permanent manner. I'll give you a simple example. There was someone in Brisbane those days. She was practicing with us, and of course, this is a very classic example of wrong view. She practiced so well, and she was a non-Buddhist. So well she practiced, and after practicing, maybe after about 2 years, she started having lots and lots of vibrations in the body. So when these vibrations appeared, she was a bit shocked as to what is going on, because in her faith, and they don't, they just pray and stop there. They don't go into the mental layer. So once you go to the mental layer and keep the attention to the body, and especially when you do the body scanning, these things come up very fast. So that has happened to her. And then I kept on explaining, and she was accepting. And then one day I said, now when these things happen, usually you may get shocked. You may be afraid of it. That's a normal tendency for anybody. Even that happened to Buddha. That is why the day Buddha became Buddha, he sat on that particular full moon day, thinking to himself that I will not get up even if my blood dries up, even if my flesh crack open and completely vanish. I will not get up until such time I realize what is going on. So that means he has been also suffering before that. So therefore, I told her, those things will happen, and that happens only to those whose practice is going well. And therefore, when these things happen, Buddha's advice is, give up your life, give up your body, and offer it to Buddha, offer it to Dhamma, offer it to the enlightened ones, and then you simply observe. And she said, okay. And then what she did was, she has thought, and Buddha is also a spiritual leader. Why should I offer it to Buddha? Instead, I offer it to my spiritual leader. And once that happened, it completely went on the wrong direction. The why I'm taking this is, she has not basically accepted that she's in a wrong view. In the sense, when the practice is happening, when vibrations are happening, you are seeing impermanent notion. When you have the impermanent notion, if your mind goes on to some thinking pattern which explains and which proclaim and which tries to uphold permanent notion, it completely cracks. So after that, she completely stopped the practice, and I tried to help, and it did not happen. So therefore, it is very important that we keep the mindfulness to the fore. When you keep the mindfulness to the fore, no matter, I mean, it usually you have the wrong view. We can go through the wrong view. And all of us are having wrong view because we are not born with right view. So therefore, when we practice, our mind is so shrewd to bring the wrong view. So when we have the wrong view, if we have the mindfulness to the whole, we simply accept that we are doing the wrong thing. And a lot of people are saying, Bante, I see I am getting slowly attached to it. Bante, I see and slowly I start liking it. Seeing that is the way out. So that will happen only when you have the right view, only when you accept that something wrong is going on. So in this manner, we can purify ourselves from the viewpoint. And Buddha says, unless you do that, you will get bogged down in one of those viewpoints, wrong viewpoints, and they will have a long, long samsara. So when the entire universe is running in the opposite direction, we have been really lucky to hear this Buddha's words. And Buddha has come and asking us whether at least we have a tiny bit of brain working. That's a simple question Buddha is asking. If you have a tiny bit of brain working, then you should be able to understand. And if it is not functioning, only one side of the brain is functioning, then they will not understand. And a lot of people are like that, although they have the capability. So just imagine the escape we have received by accepting this wonderful teaching. And this teaching is not old. This, although we say it is 2600 years, it is still fresh. And Buddha says it will never die so long as there are people practicing mindfulness, practicing four foundations of mindfulness. You will practice four foundations of mindfulness only if you keep the mindfulness to the fore. So therefore, may you all be able to keep the mindfulness to the fore and go beyond all these underlying tendencies. Blessings of the Triple Gem. Teruvan Sarana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Right. Thanuka is joining. Happy to see you, Thanuka.
Yeah,
Tanuka did a great job yesterday, taking Lokohamduru from Perth to
Hong
Hong
Kong.
Kong
Yeah,
and putting him in the flight to Sri Lanka. And that was a great favor for all the what do you call Lokohamduru's Dayakas in Australia and New Zealand. We pass our blessings and anumodana to you for that, Tanuka. Teruvan Saranan.
nice, nice, nice.
And then after that, you will have to join every Tuesday as well.
Yeah, I'm struggling to get out of work at the moment because I
Yeah,
always get
yeah.
like
Yeah,
Tuesday
no,
night
no,
shifts.
don't push
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
But whenever you can join.
yeah. We'll try my best.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
everyone, Saranat.
Thanks,
So I would like to open the floor for discussion, and our permanent two members are here, Kusal and Chatu. There are about five, yeah, four members in the Zoom. So anybody having any question, any report? We haven't had this session for about 2 months now. Yeah, 2 months. So they will have things to talk.
Sorry, Mahansa. I just want to discuss there's been couple experiences where I experienced like a bright light when I was like having my eyes closed, and it didn't really happen during the practice, but like I was just lying in bed, and few instances I felt like my breath was getting stuck, so I went into like a meditation state, but I was just in bed, and yeah, slowly my breath got slower and slower, and started feeling like a choking sensation, and started catching my breath, like more like gasping, but like it happened over and over. And there was a couple of instances I experienced like a brightness. I had my eyes closed, but like I experienced like a white light. It's a similar experience I experienced like at the very start of my practice, like a very long time ago. Um, but yeah, there was a couple of instances I just experienced like brightness from the top of my head.
Top of your
Um,
head too?
yeah, yeah, top of my head, yeah.
Right. Okay. So, did it, do you have any addition contraction to that or?
Not quite. No, no. That
Okay.
that those are like the main parts, yeah.
Yeah. So when the choking was happening, did you observe it or were you caught up
Yeah.
in it?
I observed it as much as I could, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, keep doing that. And when you do that, those type of brightnesses will come. Just keep observing that as well. I mean, let it happen, and there is no need when these things are happening. It is not necessary for you to intentionally be mindful. You just let whatever is happening to happen. So then it will register in the mind. So it's good, mm, depending on the practice. It is not necessary for us to be in the practice for those experiences to come because the mind is used to getting concentrated in any activity because you have been practicing for some time. So maybe when you are sleeping, maybe when you are in the toilet, these things will come. So if it comes, if you feel it, just let it happen and observe, especially when you feel it is getting choked. And you may feel sometimes, even your heart is going to stop. Don't give a damn. Observe that you are going to die. Then you can go beyond death. So, it's keep it up is what I will have to say.
Yeah. Teruvan Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai. Anybody else? Yes, so we will turn this on. Let me see. Whether they can hear.
Can you hear? You guys hear my voice? I don't think so.
Can you hear Chatura?
Yes, we can hear Bante.
Okay.
Yeah, not me, Chatu.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I asked one question from Lokuhamdru when he was here. So I thought I would share that, and
I can't comment about it.
and I guess I have sort of question afterwards. So I asked Lokuhamdru, I just sat down with him one day and asked a question. I said, when he became enlightened, I asked, did he know immediately or afterwards? And he didn't give a direct answer to the question, but he gave a very lengthy answer, which I've immediately forgot most of it, but I got the gist of it. So he said, when like Nibbana is like an unknown area. So your senses are not used to or not tuned to seeing this unknown place. So it's possible that that scenario happens and you're not aware of it. And after repeated instances, then your senses might be open to seeing what it is. And that was his answer in a very condensed form. But he didn't give me his particular answer. So I thought, okay, this is a good idea. So I thought, okay, when I'm doing walking and sitting, this is my input afterwards. I want to see if there was anything that I hadn't, maybe my senses had not been aware of. So I was just observing a bit more intently than usual. And there was lots of things. I forget if it was walking or sitting. I think both. There was lots of things that I thought was happening that are very hard to describe to someone that outside the normal like range of senses. Like, for example, one of them was the world was a wiggle, is the best way I could describe it. But after all, I thought, okay, I had like some intent to do something, which I don't have intent when I do walking and sitting. And then suddenly all these things are happening. And I thought this is probably like I'm searching for something and then the mind is giving something. So I thought, okay, this is a waste of time. So I just gave it up and I just did the normal practice, walking and sitting as I usually do, which is not really to do much. So I guess if you have any comments for that.
Okay. No, you can leave it there. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Bante.
Yeah. Yes, so that's one danger. The first thing is asking what sort of experience is also sort of an underlying tendency, because you feel that it is the right thing to do, but what is going beneath is when the heck is this going to happen? So we are agitated. So it doesn't show that agitation, but it is coming as a very wise question, very reasonable question, and that is how we have been brought up. So this is the reason why I'm saying, Ujung kayang panidaya parimukam jati upatipetta. Just simply keep observing your body. And he just mentioned the world is wiggly or something, right? And see How, not outside, see your body. And seeing, observing that things are not, as solid as you feel outside is good. But for you to enlighten, it should get to your body. So therefore, keep the attention. Maybe sometimes in the body there is nothing to see. It doesn't matter. Don't give up. Keep your attention as much as possible to the body. Even if the thoughts are going, observe the thoughts, and as soon as the thoughts are observed, see whether that observation affects in any way physicality. Right. So therefore, the blessed one did not say this Junkayam Panidai just for the heck of it. There's a very strong Dhamma foundation, and that will be understood not by those who read books. That will be understood by guys here like you. You are giving your heart and soul as much as possible to the practice. So therefore, you have that ability. But our mind is pulling us here and there to various directions. But if you gradually streamline the practice to Junkayam Panidaya Parimukam Satipatipetva, keeping the body as the focal point and keep the mindfulness to the fore, it picks up. So this is why I like, in a way, Goenkaji's method. Although they are not upholding mindfulness, they are bringing the attention to the body. And you have done that for 10 days. So that bringing attention to the body is very important. But I'm not saying it is compulsory for you to do Goenkaji. But there are so many people without doing Goenkaji, but continuous observation of the breath is giving some experience. And now, Tanuka was talking about he was getting choked because the attention was in the body. Otherwise, he will not get choked. Right? So you feel that we have never challenged our body, but when we challenge our body in this manner, and you don't think that when you get choked, when you're going to die, this is going to take you Nibbana. This is going to give you some experience that you are not seen. And Nibbana is something that you don't know. Death is also an area that we don't know when we are living. What Blessed One does is takes us through the death. Once you take us through the death, then you go to the immortality. What happens is when you die, if you have not practiced, then at the time of death you are trying to live. Right? So that does not mean you go and die and try to practice it. Through the practice. So the question is good, but it has some underlying tendency, and it's an unknown area. And I think Nathan also once asked the same question in a different way. How do we know that we are progressing? So that we should not have, when you practice mindfulness, any sort of expectation. If I'm getting enlightened, well and good. If I'm not getting enlightened, still well and good. What Buddha says is when our hindrances gradually fade away, all what is left with us is the happiness. Right? So that's one side of it. And the other side is when our practice is developing, hindrances are also coming up. Hindrances are coming up initially as hindrances, and then hindrances are coming up as imperfections, and then hindrances are coming as the nature. Our existence, our simple nature, even if you are enlightened, is a continuation of hindrances. So once you have practiced to the highest level, only thing you will see is the hindrances are coming up, staying, fading away. Once it coming up, staying, fading away. And then you start seeing this over and again, over and again, over and over again. right? So then you don't entertain that. Then it gradually slows down, goes down, and stays at the bottom. And if you try to get rid of that, then you again get hooked onto it. So that is what the Blessed One is talking in this Honey Bowl Sutta. So therefore, the question is a sign of progress. Because those underlying tendencies are coming out when your transgressional defilements are not happening. When your obsessional defilements are not happening. Especially, you are not living like a recluse. You are doing your normal life. You are working and then practicing. Then, when we work and practice, there is a great chance that we will get caught up in transgressional defile. We will get caught up in the obsessional defile. But with such a complex practice, when you are not getting caught up, then the underlying tendencies are gradually coming out. So therefore, in a way, we see that as a negative thing. But that negativity is showing a lot of positive on the other side. Since you have passed a lot of positives, this negativity is coming out. Right? So good. Keep it up.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I've asked this question before from you, but which is why I didn't do it in the end. Generally, my practice is I don't do anything. Like the walking and sitting is happening, but I'm not doing anything. But this, what I just did, I had to do something, although it's very like not like a big intent. There is a small intent that I'm going to observe something. So should I do that or should I just do nothing?
No, not doing is the best.
Okay.
But you should have one eye. I mean, let me put it this way. Irrespective of the extent to which the rocket goes to the atmosphere, there is a communication with the controlling group. Mindfulness is there. Nothing is happening, right? But once in a while you are aware that nothing is happening, that there will have some pockets of being aware that nothing is happening.
Yeah. Okay.
When that happens, when you become aware, then slightly take your attention to the body. Not all the time. As soon as you become aware of something, maybe a thought or maybe the particular state you are in, as soon as you become mindful, just see the body. Because these defilements will not stay in the atmosphere. They will be in our name and form. So the Blessed One has said, Vedana samosarana sabbe dhamma, which means all the happenings, occurrences are relying on some feeling. So there will have some subtle feelings which may be getting established through the unawareness of nothing is there. But when you become aware of the fact that nothing is there, those subtle feelings may get shocked. Oh, this guy saw me. Very subtle. But since your mind has gone to that level, so without, I mean, it should not be a huge intention. If you have, very strong intention to see this, then you are again agitating. So these are things that cannot be taught. When you are driving, there are certain places where you have to go slow, where you will have to go on a lower gear. There are places you will have to accelerate and go. There are places you will have to stop but can't brake. Those things cannot be taught. So it comes with the practice. So keep it up. All right. Anybody else? All right. So if there are no comments, questions, suggestions, complaints, We will conclude the session by sharing merits with the rest of the beings. We'll get Chatu and Kusal to chant. We have practiced for 1.5 hours and listen to a talk and then discuss some experiences and some viewpoints we have about the practice. And with that, we have generated tremendous amount of positive energies. We will share those positive energies with the rest of the beings in the universe. Over to you, Chatu and Kusal.
May all the devas share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all other beings share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all the beings share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect the dispensation. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect the teaching. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect me and others. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly I have done any wrong, forgive, O Master, O Victor, greatly wise. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly I have done any wrong, forgive, O Dhamma, to be seen here and now, timeless. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly I have done any wrong, forgive, O Sangha, practice well, the incomparable. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be happy. With the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise up to the time I attain Nibbana. With the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise up to the time I attain Nibbana. With the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise up to the time I attain Nibbana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you everyone for joining and see you next time. Blessings.